I look to see what can I do better just by 1% each day. Bishop, that thing was so powerful to me because as I was reading and listening to the book this past week, I said, this is what we need to stress even this week on the show. But this is how you do it, the aggregation of marginal gains. Hey, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Jonathan Shepard coming here live from the radio station as we are bringing to you another live episode of Spirit in Mind. I am so glad to be with you on this afternoon. I'm here with Bishop C. Guy Robinson, and we're so glad that you joined us today as we are so excited that today is a new day. And we are excited about what's happening in your life, and we're excited about what's happening in our own lives. And please let somebody know that we are on the air, that Spirit in Mind is live. Let me tell you, Bishop, I am just so encouraged because there's so many different people who are letting me know that they are listening to us, they're watching us, they're going back and being able to hear what is happening in our own lives and what's happening in their lives as they're going through transitions. It's this seriousness has been so impactful for so many different people. We love staying in contact with you. That's how we know that we are being a blessing to you and that you're receiving what we're sharing each week. Please go. You can even visit Bishop at his church, the Tabernacle of the Lord Church. His bishop has been even just busy today in ministry, and we're so thankful for him. And you can go and listen to a wonderful sermon, 2100 West Baltimore Street. You can look even online to purchase his book called Critical Collaborations. Critical Collaborations, go to Amazon or wherever you like to purchase your books, and you will gladly be blessed. You can even check me out. You can go to my website and check some of the services out that I'm providing. If you're in need of direct care services within the Maryland and DMV area, in particular the District of Columbia, if you need some of those resources, please let me know. drjonathanshepard.com, drjonathanshepard.com. Been working hard on my website to make sure that it is easily accessible. And if you need direct care services, please reach out to me. If you're in need of just someone to be a consultant in regards to mental health treatment that's occurring or that is needed, I should say, within your faith-based organization, your corporation, even within your own personal family, please let me know. But Bishop C. Guy Robinson, it's so glad to see you, sir. How are you doing?
Doing well, Dr. Shepard and Spirit in Mind family. What a blessing it is to have this time with you. And what a relevant, you said it, what a relevant subject. I know to me personally and to us, we talk a lot about this, but dealing with transitions and the reality of change. And so many of us are going through so many changes in our world today. And so you've heard the contact information. So we'd love to hear from you on the chat line or by way of the live call in, just as we begin to revisit some of these ways of acknowledging, addressing, and coping with and dealing with. Last week we talked about embracing the reality of change. And so if you're going through any changes, holiday season is upon us. And for some, this may be a different holiday season than for others compared to last year. And so all those kind of changes we want to talk about today as we get started.
But Bishop, you said something last week, and I want to start there, and then we'll move forward. But you mentioned about betrayal and bereavement. That those two issues is what tends to rise up during this period of time: betrayal and bereavement. And I don't know if you want to start with some of that today, and let's just speak to our audience about how do we manage through those betrayal and bereavement as we were preparing for the Thanksgiving holiday next week, and then Christmas and other holidays, Kwanzaa and other things that we do with our family.
Absolutely, and because that really fits into this kind of like exchanging relationship or correlating relationship between change and loss and grief and those kinds of things. Study done just during the pandemic about some of the top forms of trauma that the body of Christ, that particularly, should be mindful and looking out for in terms of having trauma informed ministry. And so at that list was bereavement. At the top of those lists included bereavement and betrayal, both of which, involve attachments and relationships. Betrayal, of course, requires some requisite of what was presumed to be friendship or relationship, and persons who felt that relationships had turned for the worse, or persons had betrayed their trust. And so that certainly is a form of transition in life, because then that changes the nature of that relationship, changes the dynamics in that relationship. And then bereavement, of course, is the loss of a significant relationship. And so, and I might add, that may not just be between that betrayal and bereavement may not just be interpersonal. It may not just be between like me and the significant other, but it may be, some people felt betrayed by institutions.
Wow.
Or situations that let us down, jobs that disappointed us. So betrayal can happen in several different contexts, and so can loss. The loss. We don't just grieve the loss of people, but I was just reading some research today that change and grief are inextricably connected. Change, because where there's change, there's some form of loss, even when there's change for the better.
Yes.
So this change can be celebratory, or and yet we, feel the loss at the same time, which is exactly why we cry at graduations and
Right.
feel some kind of way at promotions. You have a going away party at your own job and you're celebrating, but at the same time, you're feeling some change. So these are forms of transition, and in some cases trauma, that we in some that occur and we experience them somewhere on the continuum of distress even. And so they're the kind of things we want to talk about today.
Absolutely. And, Bishop, I could just even say, and thank you, Sandra McCrae, for joining us. I can even just say for my own family, we have actually experienced death and bereavement during the holidays. I've had my grandmother, my father's mother, who died in 2019, actually the day after my birthday, on the 19th of December. And then I've had an aunt and uncle, both died within weeks of Thanksgiving. And so those things are so impactful. And I can imagine that even there's somebody today who's saying, wow, my parent was here last year and they're no longer here. My grandparent was here, or my spouse was here last year and they're no longer here. And we just want you to know that we are with you. This transition is not easy. And you've heard us talk about that, about how transitions are not easy. And we just want to let you know that we're supporting you throughout this time. This really is a time where you need to know that you are cared about, that you are loved. Spirit and Mind is here to help provide that strength, that nourishment for you. We want you to make sure you tap into your spiritual leaders. If you are associated with mental health clinicians, make sure you are calling them. I know some of you all tend to take a step back during this time, but this is not a time to take a step back. It's not a time to take a vacation from those things that feed your spirit, that feed your mental health, because this is what's going to help sustain you as you go through these transitions. Bishop, there's a book that I'm reading. I alluded to it and maybe even mentioned some of it last week, but it's called Atomic Habits, and by James Clear. And it's been really important for me to be reading that at this time, because it talks about transitions and how to make desirable habits more consistent. So a lot of us, we desire to have good habits. And this book might be something we may need to really look at the beginning of the year, because so many of us have so many different goals and objectives. We want to lose that weight, and we want to drop this person, or drop that thing, or add this thing, whatever it is. And so, oh yeah, and thank you, my uncle. He reminded me that our grandfather actually died the day after Thanksgiving. That is true. That is very true. I forgot about that. That was a very that was a tough Thanksgiving that year. Thank you, Uncle. And but I was reading the book, and the phrase really stuck with me. Called well, of course, the book is called Atomic Habits, but the phrase is tiny changes, remarkable results.
Right.
And that's what I'm really holding on to for this upcoming year. Tiny changes, but remarkable results. And how does that apply to transitions? As you're moving through the transitions that we've talked about, how we have mentioned about the need for changing your circle of influence and how that may shift for you. We also talked about how we may need to change our defaults, our automatic ways of handling things or handling people. And this book has really helped me because when you're looking to do massive changes or go through transitions, you understand there is a way in which you can approach that. There's a way in which you can be guided through that. Because so many people get discouraged, especially as they're going through a transition and say, man, I tried it one time, I tried it 10 times, and that didn't work, and we just throw it away. I don't want us to do that. I want us to make sure that we're making the tiny changes and seeing those remarkable results. There's this thing, and I'm going to stop right here. It's called the aggregation of marginal gains. Man, that thing is powerful. The aggregation of marginal gains. So what it does, it looks at just those little small wins, those little small changes, and that as you do that, they accumulate. And as they accumulate, you start to see the transition. You start to see yourself moving from that familiar zone into that growth zone. And how do you do that, Dr. Shepard? So, what does that mean, the aggregation of marginal gains? It means that you find a 1% gain. You look at yourself by improving by 1% and getting better by 1% each day.
Absolutely.
Man, I was like, okay, I think I can do that. That means I look to see what can I do better just by 1% each day. Bishop, that thing was so powerful to me because as I was reading and listening to the book this past week, I said, this is what we need to stress even this week on the show. For people who've been listening, they've been saying, yeah, I'm with you all, but I still kind of struggling with the transitions. But this is how you do it, the aggregation of marginal gains, the 1% better each day for 1 year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's aggregation of small gains. I love that phrase. And for those like, what is that? It just means a little adds up. Basically, is what it's saying. Make these little changes for the better. If it's waking up 15 minutes earlier to have a moment of devotional time, small 15 minutes. Well, what does that do? Well, over time, it can add up. It is, and the book provides scientific data for that. So it is the scientific evidence-based version of the wisdom of the hymn writer. Each victory will help you, some others to win, is what the hymn writer said.
Come on here.
So for those who need it in church terms, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So it just means celebrate small wins. As the prophet said, despise not the day of small beginnings. Because if it becomes, those small beginnings become habitual, it accumulates, it adds up over time. And so just those small changes, and that can be so helpful because so many times, particularly those of us who may be visionaries, God gives us vision and he gives us the macro picture and you see the big deal. He gives us the headlines, and then you have to go back and work the details. And sometimes we get frustrated because we don't see the manifestation of what we envisioned the very next day. But the scriptures say the vision is for an appointed time. And so in the end, it will speak.
Wow.
And so between the revelation of the vision and the manifestation, you can work the aggregation of small gains.
Yes, sir.
One at a time. So I guess just a long way to say, don't give up, stay in the process and keep working it because those small things occur over time. And I'll quit with this. I'm reminded of, Joseph. Joseph was a dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
So Joseph saw himself really in the ruler position from the first day. That's the dream he shared.
Right.
He saw the dream, The dream didn't contain the pit. It didn't contain the palace. It didn't contain the betrayal of his brothers, or the bereavement of separation. But all of that is part of the process. As he kept, because it kept saying, but the Lord was with him. That's the little aggregation. But the Lord was with him. You know? He's in a pit, but the Lord was with him. He's in prison, but the Lord was with him. And each time the Lord is with you, it makes the whole difference in how you handle that. That's the theological piece of these. This is spirit and mind.
Absolutely right. That's right. We're living it out. We are living it out. Thank you, thank you. And I would just want to acknowledge Sandra McCray. She was just sharing how she lost, I believe, her father. Uh, Excuse me. I always want to make sure that I say things right on the air. But she mentioned her husband. I'm sorry, her husband transitioned in 2016 in
Yes.
December. Right. And so again, we acknowledge and we recognize those persons who have suffered loss. Uh, Generally throughout the whole year, of course, but it's just something different when you experience that loss right around the time of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and yeah, and it really hits home for so many people. Bishop, I was looking at the definition of what habit and what atomic is, and I know we're coming up in the last 5 minutes, and we're just going to stay right here. So habits are the compound interests of self improvement.
Right.
So when you're talking about transitions, you're looking at the compound interests of self improvement. Because if you don't have good habits as you go through transitions, uh, those transitions will end up actually becoming negative experiences for you. One of the things that I have also noted is that as you're replicating, repeating, you could be repeating poor choices or good choices. And when you tend to do poor choices, that's when you end up with toxic results. So
Yeah.
sometimes you wonder, well, Dr. Shepard, I'm going through a transition, and then somehow I'm always ending up in toxic results. I don't end up in a growth zone. I'm moving, but I end up in a zone that's not where I should be. And so you got to go back and look at the choices. Make sure that we're replicating good choices, appropriate choices, so that you don't end up with these toxic results. I'll end with this. One of the things that the book illustrates is that a plane could take off from LAX, that's Los Angeles, and the same plane can just take off, but just a 3-degree shift of its nose will change the direction of that plane. Now, within the first hour, it probably still get to its destination. But if this plane is traveling to New York by 3 degrees difference, it'll end up in Washington, D.C., almost 250 degrees. I'm sorry, 250 degrees miles, 250 miles away from where its original destination was posted. That tells me that as we go through these transitions, we must make sure that we stay on the course, not get distracted, and don't allow the little things to take us off so that we will reach our destination. That thing was so powerful to me, Bishop. I'm going to transition back to
He
you.
starts off with that illustration. That's
Yes.
one of the most powerful ones. Little changes over time, and the effects of it, and so that's important for us, and that's important for us even when we're doing good habits, because sometimes when you're doing those small changes, it doesn't seem like it's working right away. That's why I use the Joseph piece, but that even includes in our growth and maybe even in our grief processes. You may get to acceptance this year, and then thought you did, and then something happened that triggers it again. That happens. Don't beat yourself up. Stay on that path to adjustment and openness to change these things. So I know we're running out of time, but we just can't emphasize enough, whether your decision was, to commit to an exercise routine or whatever. These habits, they're working. Whether it was to pray, and sometimes you pray every morning and that little 5 minutes, the enemy trying to say it doesn't make any difference, but no, it's making a difference. It's that 3-degree change
Yeah.
that over the course of time will get you to a better place. So just kind of trying to say that. That's hard because we live in a world that so heavily markets instant gratification and immediate gratification. But, good things still take time.
Yeah, so please continue to watch, continue to share. We're on part 12 of the series. Can you imagine that? 12 different parts, and each part has been significant and impactful. We want you to go back to YouTube, go back to our social media pages, and you will be blessed as you review over those shows. We have some exciting things coming up, and we look forward to even being able to have larger platforms so you can get the material, review it, but go back and watch this. Go back and share it with your friends because we want people to be encouraged and inspired during this time. Bishop, I'm done.
So we close with the word of the Lord. He that hath begun a good work in you shall continue to perform it. It may be little changes day by day, but every day we choose and pray that you are getting better than the day before. Thank you. And if this has blessed you, tell somebody about what we're doing. And by the grace of God, we look forward to seeing you next time on Spirit in Mind.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.